It's been 3 days since violent protests brought down the KP government in Nepal. There seems to now be some consensus building on who will lead the country out of this uncertainty and out of this developments that we've seen that led to violence. Hectic parleys were underway between the army, the president, these Gen Z leaders and several possible contenders for 3 days now. A solution has now been found. They have decided who the head of the interim government is going to be. But what it took for Nepal to reach this particular stage is distressing. The human cost of this protest has been extremely high. At last count, at least 51 lives have been lost so far. There are several more that are still getting treated in hospitals across Kathmandu because we saw the kind of arson that came to the fore. We saw the kind of tear gas shelling, the water cannons that the protesters faced on the protest on September 9th. All of which eventually resulted in the fall of the government. But was it really necessary for these lives to have been lost? There were thousands that have been injured. What happens to those that are still recuperating? And the streets of the capital of Kathmandu wear a barren look even now. There's a curfew that's in place, there's regular patrolling, all with a rare glimpse of normalcy. Will that normalcy return? Bringing that normalcy back is going to be the first big challenge for this interim leader, this interim prime minister of the Himalayan country. In fact, we have some news that's now coming in, and what we're learning is that an agreement, in fact, has been reached. Former Chief Justice of Nepal, Sushila Karki, is going to be the head of the interim government. In fact, in a few minutes from now, about half an hour, 40 minutes from now, is when we are going to be seeing her oath-taking ceremony take place as well. She is going to be sworn in as the interim Prime Minister of the country. The House of Representatives is also going to be dissolved, which means the dissolution of Parliament, which these Gen Z protesters have been asking for. That is a demand that has finally been agreed to by the President and by the Nepal army. A full day of intense discussions took place all day today. There were several delays as far as those meetings went, but eventually and finally a consensus has been built is what we're given to understand. Siddhant, my colleague, now in fact joins us live from Kathmandu. He's been getting us the voices from on ground. Siddhant, in about 45 minutes from now is when we're given to understand that oath-taking ceremony will happen, where Nepal will finally have an interim prime minister after 3 days of uncertainty.
Well, that's right, Poonam. In fact, after 2 days of hectic parley, at the army headquarters and at the Rashtrapati Bhavan, finally, Sushila Karki has been confirmed as the next interim Prime Minister of Nepal. In fact, Poonam, there were a lot of issues, perhaps, Gen Z's. First, there was Sushila Karki's name, which was proposed, after which Kulman Gising's name also did come up for discussion. Then, since morning, Poonam, there was one meeting which was at 9 a.m. in the morning. That meeting got postponed to 2 p.m. And then finally, late in the evening, we got to know that there is a deadlock because Gen Zs wanted the parliament and the provincial assemblies to be dissolved before the oath taking of Sushila Karki. But President of Nepal and army was not agreeing for that. And in fact, they had to say that the next Prime Minister should become under the constitutional framework. So that is what the President had to say. And the army was also convinced with President's opinion. But now we can say this, Poonam, that ultimately President of Nepal and army has to accept the demands of the Gen Z protesters, and perhaps now the oath-taking of Sushila Karki is going to take place in next 45 minutes at the newly formed building. And in fact, we've been told that right after that, the parliament and the provincial assemblies in Nepal will be dissolved. So definitely Gen Zs have won. They have not only overthrown the Oli government, but they are deciding the Prime Minister of Nepal, interim Prime Minister of Nepal, and they are also they have managed to pressurize President and army to dissolve the parliament and a provincial assembly. So it's a big win for the youngsters, for the youth, those who were on the streets protesting, and perhaps now the president has to accept what they wanted.
What it seems like, but Siddhant, we're also given to understand that along with Sushila Karki, at least two others will also be sworn in. There is going to be an interim cabinet that will also be put in place. That's what we are gathering.
Well, that's right, Poonam. In fact, Kulman Gising's name is doing the rounds. One is Om Prakash Aryal, and the third one is Balanandan Sharma. These are the names which are doing the rounds. We are still awaiting for the official confirmation. So in total, there is going to be four people taking oath tonight. It's going to be a very small cabinet, and in fact, right after the oath taking, there's going to be the cabinet meeting also. This is also what we have been told. So definitely there's a lot of hope, Poonam, as far as youngsters in Nepal. They are really happy with this transition, and in fact they have been looking for it from a long time. Finally, they had to come on the streets to overthrow the government and to get the new interim government and to rebuild the nation. But it's definitely going to be a very, very challenging task for Sushila Karki and her government, Poonam, given the economy of Nepal is already in doldrums. There have been major buildings across the city vandalized and ransacked and were set ablaze. So to rebuild those buildings, to renovate them and to put them back in place, perhaps require a lot of fund. So,
Right.
so it's definitely going to be a challenge, and also the aspirations of youth, Poonam. This protest had to do with corruption, nepotism, unemployment, cost of living, etc., etc. So, what is going to be the roadmap of this interim government? How they are going to meet the aspiration of the youth? Perhaps, as I said, that it's going to be a very, very challenging journey. And then again
Absolutely,
to
and
announce
we'll
the election.
we'll decode what those challenges are as our guests join us here on Brass Tacks as well. But for the moment, Siddhant, thank you so much for getting us the latest. We'll of course keep coming back to you as we inch closer to that swearing-in ceremony. But to give you a context of who exactly is Sushila Karki. Remember, she made history after she became Nepal's first female Chief Justice, serving in that role from July 2016 to June 2017, shy of just a year. She began her legal career in 1979. She completed her law education in Biratnagar. She is known for her zero-tolerance stance on corruption, and that's something that earned her the respect and gave her an image of her being a politician, now a politician, of being a judge who had extreme integrity. She delivered landmark rulings, notably enabling women to pass citizenship to their children. That was a right that was previously restricted only to men, but that's something that she stood for, which is also why she was one of those contenders that the Gen Zs were putting all their weight behind. And it seems like most of the demands that these student leaders, these Gen Z leaders were making, all of them have now been paid heed to. So what exactly does this mean for Nepal, for the subcontinent, for India as well? Let's try and decode that. Let's open this up. Rakesh Sood, former Indian ambassador to Nepal, joins us on this broadcast. Namita Sharma, senior journalist, joins us live from Kathmandu. And Sudeep Bhatta, a youth activist, also joining us live from Kathmandu. Sudeep Bhatta, let me ask you first. It looks like all of the demands that these Gen Zs were making, all of them, there was some amount of difference of opinion over that, especially as far as dissolution of the parliament went. That's not something that the president really wanted. But now we're learning that all of the demands have been accepted.
Yes. This is the victory for the Gen Zs so far. We have been protesting against corruption, and what we want is a fresh mandate from an election that will be held fair and square from the new interim leader we have chosen. So I think this is a victory for everyone in the country, because we're looking for a bright future and stability in the country after a long decade of corruption and bad governance in the country.
Well, that's really the hope, Namrata Sharma, that we do eventually reach that stage where not only are these demands accepted, but also we see some change on ground as far as Nepal goes. But that's going to be easier said than done, isn't it? That road to A, normalcy in Nepal after what we saw this week, and B, to bring about these changes that these Gen Zs are asking for, that's going to be difficult as well.
That is definitely going to be difficult. But if you do a flashback and think of how things have moved from 8th of September till now, one step has led to another. The Gen Zs have come down. They did a peaceful protest as they had promised they would. Unfortunately, some other sources almost tried to hijack that protest and give a bad name. And there was vandalism in the street, which went uncontrolled for some time. Army had to come over. There's now speculations that even till now we haven't seen our president. Genjis are raising issues that we need to see the president because he's the head of the state. And Genjis have also said that we are going to keep our constitution intact till the election is formed. So they have shown a series of very, very, mature decisions and movements. But in the whole process, vandalism started, arsenal happened, there was suspect of others taking advantage of the Gen Z protest. But they have stuck to their demand of end to corruption and putting in place a face which is attached with an anti-corruption. Gen Z actually has done a brilliant decision in choosing Sushila Karki. She's hats off to their movement and hats off to their unorganized leadership. I call that, because Gen Z hasn't given a face of this is my leader or that is my leader. They have been voicing their discontent.
But they had made it very clear that they didn't want certain people. There were several other names that were doing the rounds as well, but they were very clear that these are the people that we do not want in positions of power.
To them, like they haven't among themselves, they haven't said that this one is the Gen Z leader or that. Everybody has had an open mouth. And now coming to your question, that's why I'm going through this thing. What I hope and I believe, although it's going to be difficult, that from tomorrow onwards there will be normalcy. I went to rescue a couple of people who were alone, senior citizens today, and it was easy for me to go and come. Now that the interim government will be put in place, there will be a lot of challenge this government will have to face, because this government is going to be headed by Sushila Karki. The strength is she will be knowing the judicial system of the country very well to pave a path on what next. But she will also have some inexperienced youth who are going to be with her, but a youth who have already shown their capacity of making the right decision at the right time. So with challenges in place, I'm fully confident that they will move ahead, but they're going to be a few more days will take time for the whole street to come back to normalcy, because lots of people
absolutely, and we've seen the kind of damage that's been done to public-private property, to the loss of lives that we've seen as well. But Rakesh, Sood, let me ask you this: consensus has been built on who this interim leader is going to be. Justice Sushila Karki is now going to be the face of this interim government in Nepal. When we saw with Bangladesh, there was an interim leader of the caretaker government, and that interim has been for over a year now. Do you see a similar pattern that could be playing out in Nepal, or could we see elections happen very soon there?
Well, I have no idea, because what is happening is not in keeping with the constitution. The constitution of Nepal does not provide for an interim government. And to that extent, it is uncharted territory. Now, whether we don't know what is going to be the shape of the interim government. In fact, the constitution of Nepal says that if a government cannot be formed, then you will announce elections within 6 months, and that these elections will take place within 6 months. And meanwhile, there would be a caretaker government, which is exactly what Mr. K.P. Sharma Oli was asked to do when he handed in his resignation to the president. However, since the mood on the street was unwelcome, is not willing to accept Oli, or for that matter, any of the other old leaders. So therefore, that is not a possibility. So we are moving into uncharted territory. Whether this leads to stability or does not lead to stability is an open question, according to me.
And it's not just about stability in Nepal, Mr. Sood, isn't it? It's also about stability for India. I mean, there are repercussions both in terms of security and geopolitical for India based on what happens in Nepal.
Sure. So we've already sealed our border, and the border could continue to be sealed for a long time. The only thing that we need to ensure is that it doesn't lead to any shortages of essential commodities like petrol products, like cooking gas, things like that, because a lot of these go by road into Nepal. And that is something that we will need to be very careful about, because that could very easily turn the mood of the people to an anti-India mood, which is not something that we would want, because we are not involved in this. We are not playing favorites. Our stakes are basically that we would like stability in Nepal because it is a neighboring country and that shares an open border with us. So, from that point of view, I think we will have to take precautions about sealing the border while ensuring that sealing the border does not mean that it leads to shortages. So we'll have to have that careful balance.
And that's something that New Delhi is, of course, looking at, because the threat also is that China would be wanting to fish in what they would see as troubled waters. But Namrata Sharma, let me ask you this. As far as the way the government fell and now an interim leader has been chosen, many would suggest that the fact that the president and the army has given in to the demands of these Gen Zs sets a wrong precedent because of the way we got here. I mean, this is not something that you would expect every few months if something doesn't go your way. 51 lives have been lost at last count.
Absolutely. Before I go on to your main question, what I want to say is the concern that the people are feeling at the moment is they haven't seen the face of President Ramchandra Paudel. He is known to be a people's person, and I'm sure he would be wanting to give a live address of to the people. So at the moment, the general feeling in the country is that the army is taking lead. Of course, it must be under the instructions of the president, and we all hope that, because although president is the ceremonial position at the moment, he is also the chief of army. You see, and at the moment, the president and the army are the only institutions that are effective in this country. So the army chief is doing what the president has instructed, most probably. But there is a concern among the general population, particularly Gen Zs and everybody, that Ramchandra Paudel has not been seen by the people. And coming back, this is also unprecedented. The whole country is in a very unprecedented situation at the moment. That is the reason why, a people's elected parliament is going to be dissolved now, and then interim government is going to be in place. Then after that, that interim government's mandate is to actually conduct an election within 6 months.
Right.
As you said, this has been given an example not only to Nepal, but globally. And just like the youth of today, these are the fingertip youths, they have learned from Malaysia, they've learned from Bangladesh, they've learned from Pakistan, and we also used to learn from different countries and the historical developments and political movements. But the way they learn is different, In Nepal, there used to be a cross-border crossing over to India when the Nepali politicians needed to be safe, and getting support from different political parties there. Now the Gen Z youth actually tap their fingers and start connecting with their youth leaders all over the world. Their learning is different and faster, you see. So I don't think, I hope that the future generation will take the good things of this movement as an example. Like, for example, talking against and toppling over a corrupt system. How can it be done? That is a good example. But the vandalism that happened in the street is very bad, because it destroyed historical buildings, it destroyed business houses, and it destroyed a lot of dreams that general simple people of Nepal had building their structures, and huge economic damage. There's an expectation of 50 million Nepali rupees of claim. The insurers and bankers are saying that. So these are wrong things. Why did that happen? How? So every movement.
Speaking of the money that's involved, I want to bring in Rakesh Sood as well. That's another aspect where India has a big stake, isn't it, Rakesh Sood? Because India accounts for about 35% of Nepal's foreign investment. There are a lot of projects that are still underway there. And if this political uncertainty or if this kind of violence there continues, that's something that's also going to be at stake.
Absolutely. I mean, Nepal has had a low rate of growth. By and large, over the last 20 years, the average rate of growth in Nepal has varied between about 2.5% to 5%, except for the COVID years, which was an exception. But other than that, there has been a positive rate of growth, but not enough to create the necessary jobs, and which is why you have this curious phenomena of the young people seeking jobs outside, including in India, the Middle East, Southeast Asia, as far as South Korea, Philippines, and so on. So this is something that will take far more. I mean, the Nepalese GDP per capita GDP today is about half of that of India's. And this is something which is unfortunate.
It is, and which is why I want to ask Sudeep Bhatta as well. You know, this is the kind of things that are at stake, not just for Nepal, but for the subcontinent as well. There are security repercussions, and what is to say that 6 months down the line, 3 months down the line, a similar situation will not occur once again? Because now many would say that these Gen Zs and the student leaders there seem to be emboldened that if we push our way through so much, then maybe all of our demands will get accepted.
As a youth in Nepal, we believe that democracy is the best revenge, and then what we are trying to do is a fair and square election and a fresh mandate where people now will decide the future of the country. This interim government is has the main role, main objective to conduct an election that is fair, and after that there will be a government of the people, of the young people. I hope so. It will be a young people government which will work for the better future of this country. And as a youth, I know these challenges are there. There's going to be a lot of challenges, but as a youth, it's a beautiful thing that we are not that old enough to be that pessimistic. In that time, we are celebrating this victory, and we know this thing will change. It's not going to happen every 3 months or 6 months. It takes decades to pile up such type of emotion inside people for the anti-corruption that has been there, for the corruption that has been in the system, for the see it has been so wild that everyone in this country has been feeling bad about the corruption, bad about the nepotism that's happening here, and the lack of opportunities the youths are getting. The country should have been something different, but due to the lack of good leadership and credible leadership, I would say that the country is facing these problems, and I hope this is the new beginning, and will come out strong after this.
And that's really the hope. But Rakesh Sudha, let you have the last word. I just want your perspective on how it would fare for India in terms of China. I mean, that's a threat. We're trying to keep China close, but it still remains a threat. And as far as Bangladesh and Nepal are concerned, should India be wary more than ever?
Well, let me make 2 points here. First, I think everybody would like free and fair elections, but the fact is that Gen Z is not a political party, and they do not have a political party. So what happens? Are we to have free and fair elections? Are we saying that the established political parties like the Nepali Congress or the UML or the Maoist parties or the Madhesi parties will not be able to take part in the election? If that is so, then would that really be free and fair? By the way, in 2022, we saw 3 new political parties emerge in the elections. One of them was the Rashtriya Swatantra Party, RSP, and they had a very charismatic TV personality as a leader, Rabi Lamichhane, who did spectacularly well, and then was appointed Home Minister and then Deputy Prime Minister, and then ended up in jail because of corruption scandals. So, I mean, free and fair is all very well. Everybody would like it to be free and fair, but then who conducts them? is the election commission, or are we going to change the election commission? So there are a lot of questions that are there before we can actually have this golden dawn of free and fair elections. Now, to answer your second question about China, I think I'm reminded in 2014 when Prime Minister Modi came to power and took oath as Prime Minister of India, he talked of neighborhood first policy. And his first visit, if I remember right, in 2014 was to Nepal, and the second visit was to Bhutan, and the second one was to Nepal. From there, if I look at our neighborhood, I see the neighborhood in turmoil. In 2021, you saw the military takeover in Myanmar, where the popularly elected government of Aung San Suu Kyi was thrown out. You also saw the Taliban takeover in Afghanistan. In 2022, we saw troubles taking place in Sri Lanka. 2023, we saw other difficulties happening in Pakistan. We had a near crisis when Imran Khan was put in jail, and then the military had to crack down. In 2024, we saw Bangladesh go up into a period of uncertainty, which is still continuing, and now we see Nepal. So I think that clearly this neighborhood first policy, which or whatever it was, is certainly not working, and I think we need to take another look at our regional foreign policy.
Well, I'll have to leave it at that, but I thank you, Rakesh Sood, Namita Sharma and Sudeep Bhatta for joining us here on Brass Tacks with your perspective. My colleague Siddhant Mishra has been in Nepal, getting us a sense of what it looks like in Kathmandu, especially 3 days after the violence. The buildings bear a completely ashen look. Most of the iconic buildings like the Supreme Court or the Parliament in Kathmandu went completely ablaze. They went up in flames during that protest on the 9th of September. Here's what it all remains now in Kathmandu.
This used to be the open area of the Parliament building, and now look at the condition, fully gutted. And in fact, these used to be the corridors of the Parliament of Nepal. Now, army has been deployed both inside and outside the Parliament. Complete destruction, and in fact, the entire building was set ablaze. This building was first vandalized, then it was set ablaze, and you can see broken glasses, broken window pane. Right here, where I'm reporting from, this you see the open space of the Parliament building. As I said before, in fact, you could see a lot of tourists, locals have started visiting this building. Perhaps they also are here to understand the sense and to get a sense about the destruction and damage which was caused by the rioters the other day in Nepal. We are inside the Parliament building right now. You can see the nebulated top. This building was set ablaze by the rioters. In fact, the first floor, the roof of this entire building has fallen down. This entire building got gutted as protesters set this building ablaze the other day. There's complete destruction. The full building has been gutted. Not a single block or a corner of this building is left. Now, whoever comes in power in Nepal, perhaps the biggest challenge would be for him or her to rebuild these buildings, Parliament building, Supreme Court building. So we are bringing these visuals for our viewers, this report from inside the Parliament of Nepal, where you can see massive destruction took place the other day when protesters set this building upwards. In fact, every corner of this building got gutted because of a massive fire, and we have managed to enter the domain and look at the situation inside the complete destruction. everything started, and it would definitely be a challenge for the new government to rebuild these buildings, the structures.
Well, this is the traffic headquarters of Nepal, the head office of the traffic department of Nepal, and you can see many vehicles were set ablaze the other day, and in fact right now the review and inspection work is being going on inside. So we are shooting from outside, and just want to give viewers a sense the amount of destruction which happened the other day. There were many vehicles which were parked inside the premises, and all the vehicles were set ablaze. In fact, the building was also ransacked and then was later set on fire. Behind me is the Hilton Hotel, which was set ablaze by the rioters the other day, and in fact you can see the smoke from this building is still coming out. We can still see the smoke around this building. This building has fully got gutted, and right now we are reporting outside the Hilton Hotel in Kathmandu.